What is going on, everyone? We are back in our Bears franchise in Madden 17. We are in Week 9. It is our bye week this week. It is time for us to take another mid-season look around the league. We're going to be taking a look at the standings, player stats, and then finally a look at scouting. A little update at where we're at scouting players for the upcoming draft. Now, first up is standings. In the AFC North, you have the Steelers and the Ravens tied at 4-3 to top that division. Browns at 4-4. The Bengals at 2-6. They've lost 4 games in a row. Ravens a 3-game winning streak. On to the AFC South, it is the Titans at 5-3, Colts and Texans at 4-4, and the Jaguars at 3-4. Looks like the Colts and the Texans on a bit of a losing streak. 2 games for the Colts in a row, 3 games in a row for the Texans. But still, every team in this division still has a shot at that title. Now, the AFC East, it's the Patriots well out in front at 7-1, Bills and Jets at 4-4, and the Dolphins at 2-5. And you see the Patriots, 7 wins in a row. The Bills have dropped off a little bit with 2 losses in a row, so the Patriots kind of running away with that one. AFC West, it's the Chargers at 7-1. They've won 6 games in a row. Raiders right behind them at 6-2. They've won 3 in a row. Chiefs at 3-4, and the Broncos last at 3-5. Surprised to see them all the way at the bottom of that division. Although this is a competitive division, all 3 of the other teams are good, and actually I'm more surprised probably to see the Chargers at 7-1. Now our division, the NFC North, Packers are in the lead at 4-3. We are in second at 4-4. Vikings at 3-4, and the Lions at 3-5. We have lost 2 games in a row. The Packers have won 3 in a row. The Vikings won 2 in a row, so we got some heat there in that division. NFC South, it's the Panthers at 5-2, Saints and Buccaneers at 3-4, and the Falcons at 3-5. They have lost 3 games in a row, but still, everyone's still competitive in that division. The Falcons may be falling a little bit behind, but still, they get a chance to come back. The NFC East, always competitive. The Eagles are at the top at 4-3. Redskins at 4-4. Cowboys and Giants at 3-4. They have both lost 2 games in a row. Redskins have won 3 games in a row. And then the final division, the NFC West, it's the Seahawks at 5-2. Rams at 4-3. 49ers at 2-5. And the Cardinals, 7 losses in a row, 1-7. That is the biggest surprise. Actually, the Rams have won 4 games in a row, but the Cardinals, 7 losses in a row. That's the biggest surprise looking through the standings. Now on to stats. Jay Cutler, 1,900 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, only completing 61% of his passes. He's been really up and down so far in this season. 17 sacks as well as the offensive line. We already know not great, not protecting him very well. Jeremy Langford, not a bad first half of the season, 581 yards. Jordan Howard, not as much work, but we are giving him more work in the last couple weeks. 81 yards rushing and a touchdown. And Kadeem Carey, just 4 carries, 13 yards. Haven't really been impressed. Wasn't impressed with him early in the season, and he's kind of lost that backup spot to Jordan Howard. Receiving is Alshon Jeffrey in the lead, 39 catches and 620 yards. Kevin White, until he got hurt, was doing really well. He's out for a few weeks. He's got 461. Eddie Royal, both those guys also with 4 touchdowns. Eddie Royal with 234. Marquise Wilson has come on as of late to replace the injured Kevin White. Played really good, 13 for 180 and 2 touchdowns for him. Kerry Lee, who was in the place of our injured tight end Zach Miller earlier in the season, he's 11 for 151. Jeremy Langford, 23 for 138 and a touchdown. Zach Miller, 9 for 88 and a touchdown. Braverman, who has had some spot chances there since White has gone down, he's got 5 catches for 46 yards. And then Miyoki with 3 for 10. Moving to defense, Danny Trevathan leading the way by far with 70 tackles. Freeman with 54, so our middle linebackers doing work. Tony Lippett with 47. Jones Cordy with 48. Tackles for loss, it's going to be Trevathan as well, leading the way with 17 tackles for loss, 13 for Freeman, 9 for Pernell McPhee. Then when it comes to sacks, it is going to be McPhee in the lead with 6, Unrein with 3, Hicks with 1.5, Floyd the rookie with 1.5 as well, Danny Trevathan with 1, Freeman, Goldman, Houston Carson with 1 as well, and then Tony Lippett with half of a sack. And then when it comes to interceptions, this is one where we do have to talk about Tony Lippett because he should have an interception. But Kyle Fuller leading the way with 3, Prozinski, Porter, and Amos with 1. And then Tony Lippett had one. I can't remember what week it was, but the game got all screwy. The stats didn't save, and he missed out on his interception. So you got to think, just remember Tony Lippett has 1 interception. Forced fumbles, Pernell McPhee with 3 forced fumbles. Freeman, Floyd, Hicks, and Unrein all have 1 forced fumble. And then we'll look at fumble recoveries, and I believe that is going to be led by Jarrell Freeman. Leonard Floyd with 2, McPhee and Bullard with 1 apiece. Now looking at the league leaders, Carson Palmer leads the way. So even though the Cardinals are 1-7, he leads the league in passing yards, 2,200 yards, so would go along with 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Roethlisberger, you see all the guys well over 2,000 yards. We are pretty close with Cutler. We have had to throw the ball quite a bit because we've been down a lot so far in this season, as Brady, the last guy, over 2,000, and then we're going to find Cutler a little bit farther down there. He does have 12 touchdowns, which is going to also put him in the middle of the pack. Phillip Rivers has 19 touchdowns. Tom Brady with 17, Roethlisberger, Stafford, Mariota with 16, and then Palmer, Osweiler, And actually, that's it with 15. Interceptions are going to be led by Blake Bortles with 12, Andrew Luck with 10, Bradford with 10. Still on the Eagles there. And then moving on to the running game, Ryan Matthews, a surprise leader, 711 rushing yards. Even more surprising, second is LeGarrette Blount with 677. Peterson with 615. Only those three guys over 600 yards. Langford is right there, though, behind them at 581. Forte at 567. And Danny Woodhead, surprised to see him being a feature back, I guess. He is at 560. Justin Forsett as well. And then Le'Veon Bell, surprisingly a little bit farther down the list at 554. And then there's quite a few other guys with 500. And then we have Lacey at 10 touchdowns, Ryan Matthews with 8, Langford there at third with 7, McKinnon, Lewis, Gillislee, Jennings, Turbin, and Oliver all with 6. Now on to receiving, and it's going to be Danny Amendola leading the way with catches, but it's Julio Jones leading the way in receiving, 766 yards receiving. Jordan Reed, surprised to see her at tight end in second with 652. Antonio Brown, no surprise seeing him at 633. Fitzgerald with 629. Jeffrey there he is with 620. Alshon Jeffrey has been a huge part of our offense so far in the first half of the season. Keenan Allen there as the last guy over 600 yards. Receiving touchdowns, I believe, yes, it is Keenan Allen leading the way with 8. Jordan Reed with 7. Antonio Browns, Cooks, Edelman, Johnson with 7, Hardy with 6, and I think our highest was 4, and that was Jeffrey and White, who both had 4. Then on to defense, and this is actually surprising. I'm not used to seeing a player of ours near the top of the tackles list, but there is Danny Trevathan at, I think, like 5th or 6th in tackles with 70 overall, tie with James Laurinaitis. So that is nice to see. And he is actually going to lead the way in tackles for loss with 3 clear of Ndamukong Suh and J.J. Watt. So that is good to see. We'll see if he can keep that up throughout the rest of the season. Maybe can earn himself a little hardware at the end of the year. Sacks is, we're not going to have anybody close here. J.J. Watt with 12, Leggett with 11.5, Robert Quinn with 11, Ward with 10. That's actually a rookie there, Jihad Ward with 10. Interceptions is going to go to the eternal Adam Jones with 5, Talib with 4, Ben Wickery with 4, and then quite a few guys with 3, and that is also where we will find Kyle Fuller, who had 3. Now looking at the awards really quick, way too early to really even pay attention to these, but it is going to be Phillip Rivers leading the way there. Matt Stafford is the Offensive Player of the Year leader in the NFC. Jeremy Langford is down there in 7th. That's the best that we are going to do. Defensive Player of the Year is going to be Bobby Wagner currently, and I don't think we had anyone on that list. Offensive Rookie of the Year is currently Jared Goff's to lose, Wendell Smallwood in 2nd, and then Josh Doxson, and I don't think we have anybody on that list. Actually, no, we do. Jordan Howard is down there in 8. I hope he will climb that list as he gets more playing time the remainder of this season. Defensive Rookie of the Year is going to be Reed, Buckner, Hargraves, and then we have a Mr. Leonard Floyd down there in 7th. So no one really contending so far here through this first half of the season. Matt Stafford, your best QB, and it is going to be Jay Cutler down there in 6th. Actually surprised to see him that high on the list as he's beating out Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers having a rough season. Ryan Matthews is in the lead for running back, but then there is Langford in 3rd, and there is Alshon Jeffrey in 3rd for wide receiver. Brandon Cooks leading that race. We're not going to have anybody on the best offensive lineman. That's going to be top there with a couple Cowboys. Robert Quinn leading the way at defensive end. Again, we don't have anybody on that list. And then best linebacker, Bobby Wagner, is going to be in the lead, and there is Pernell McPhee. Actually surprised to see Trevathan nowhere to be found on this list, so I think that's maybe a little bit glitched. And then Ben Wickery is going to be leading the way for best DV, which is funny because I think the Panthers just cut him recently, but Kyle Fuller is going to be 5th on that list. And then Mason Crosby, and this is maybe our best bet to win an award, Robbie Gould, who hasn't kicked a lot of field goals, but he is in 2nd for that race. Now on to the scouting, and this is just a look at the players that I've scouted, the guys that are on my watch list. As I spoke about the last update, I'm not too happy with this draft class. There is not a lot of good players in the positions that we need. I have been able to find a few tight ends, which that is a position we're probably going to be looking at. Zach Miller, who is our tight end, not the best, but tackle and actually offensive line as a whole is something that we really need, and there is not a lot of good players here. You can see I have been able to find a couple more decent tackles in the first round, but left tackle is first round heavy, and most of them grade out in the 3rd round. We found a couple of centers. We found one right tackle, and then a couple, or at least one undrafted, and then moving on to defensive end, we have one left end that's looking okay, and then a couple undrafted. This is kind of a common theme. You're going to see one right end and an undrafted, a lot of undrafted players, and a lot of them graded as high as like the 3rd round, which is really, really surprising. Fortunately, we've been able to luck out with the defensive tackles. We found a couple nose tackles that have graded out really nicely. And then getting to outside linebacker. Linebacker really isn't a position we're going to be paying much attention to. I haven't even scouted a middle linebacker yet, but we found a couple good-looking guys there on both sides of the ball. And then corner, another position we're focusing on. Fortunately, there are a lot of corners. They're graded out in the first round. I've kind of identified the ones that look the best, but obviously we're still missing here, as well as a couple third-rounders that are grading undrafted, and then one fourth-rounder that looks good. But even some of the corners high up, the attributes that they have, their top three, isn't really that great. And then we have the one free safety. I'm going to continue to scout some of the other positions we haven't gotten to yet. I kind of realized a couple of them that we need to pay more attention to. I haven't scouted any halfbacks or wide receivers. I do need to at least look at a couple of those because we're probably going to have to end up drafting at least one of those. So I'm going to try and fill out some more of the positions over the next 4 or 5 weeks until we get the next mid-season update, which I'll probably do in week 14, so we can do another one there at the end of the year. And we'll also take a closer look at the playoff races at that point. And I think also because even in these, I'm not really able to get a really in-depth look at scouting. I might do a sort of scouting special before the draft when we get to the offseason, so look out for that here. Well, it'll be a little while. We're only in week 10. We got a long ways to go. We are going to remain and try to remain as focused as we can on this current season, as we're in a legitimate fight for the playoffs. I did not think that the Bears had a chance to make the playoffs in this first season, but we really, really do. We haven't been playing that well as of late, but we have a chance to turn it around. Week 10, as we're fully into the second half of the season now, Week 10, it's going to be against the Buccaneers on the road. Jameis Winston, a very, very good young QB. We'll see if this defense can stand strong. Tampa, not a real tough place to play, so we'll see if we can get a win down there in Tampa and set our foot off on the right path and over 500 as we head into the second half of the season and we try to fight for a playoff spot. So you will see that Buccaneers game next time. That is it for this one, though. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a like. I'd really appreciate it, and subscribe to see any future videos that I make. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.